expectation that at least in April 2012 GST is going to come, but unfortunately it has got much more delayed. But what the finance minister has done is that in part he has tried to introduce a form of GST. So we'll just go through that and see what are the changes that he has brought to this budget. One, of course, is the increase of tax rate from 10 to 12%. In the finance minister's mind, this is definitely not an increase, because once we move into a GST kind of legislation, we'll have tax rates somewhere in the range of 16 to 20% on all transactions in goods and services. So previously it was supposed that gradually it will be moved to that level, both excise duty and service tax, and then the implementation of GST will happen. But because of the financial crisis that happened in 2009 to 11, the government, in order to boost export and reduce the taxes, has cut down the taxes from the previous 12% to 10%. Now they've again brought it up to 12%. So this is going to definitely increase the service tax cost in services. And what a major change that they have proposed is something called introduction of negative list of services. I caught up with only a couple of last two presentations. I didn't see anybody showing implications of how the indirect tax would have on the businesses and their performances. But we believe that negative list is going to significantly increase the service tax both to the industry and to the normal consumer. Prior to this negative list, we had something called as a positive list of taxable services, where we had around 120 taxable services defined, and only if your activity would fall in one of these taxable services definition, then you would pay a service tax on that. For example, if you are providing a courier services, if you are providing a chartered accountant services, if you are providing a legal services, even education, if you are providing any education without giving a degree recognized by the law, all these activities used to attract service tax, and for that you need to fall within the definition of that service tax. But now the entire universe of service will be taxed, except for identified list of 17 services which will not be taxed. When the government gets this absolute power of taxing the entire universe, a lot of activity that we don't even envisage to be a service will also get covered under the service tax. So the way they will define is any activity done by one person to another person, any deed done, any promise to abstain from not doing something, everything will get covered under the service tax. For example, if you pay me money for not to trouble you for whatever reasons, that is a service rendered from me to you as per the new service tax definition. Even a hafta collected can get covered under service tax, because it's no more that one person has to do something to another. Any activity done for a consideration is a service. And even things like a non-compete fee, where the business communities enter into, where they will say, you will not compete to me in the same field for the next 10 years, and for this I'm making this payment. That is abstaining from doing an activity, even that will be covered under the service tax. Now, given that we don't have any definition, every bus travel, every train travel, every time I enter into a cinema, movie hall, every time I go to a museum, entertainment park, everything can get covered under service tax. This gives them the absolute power of it. So one of the best measures to plug the gap of that physical deficit is this negative list of services that will bring in the revenue. The finance minister said he anticipates some 18,000 crore to come, but we believe it will be much, much larger than these services. From these services, what the revenue will be there. But however, they have excluded some 17 list of services, basically service provided from the government, except where they are competing with the private sector, or the activity in purchase and sale of goods, activity of manufacturing, fortunately healthcare kind of services, so basic transportation, or the services provided by an NGO. So these basic services which are in the larger good of the society, these kind of services are kept out of the service tax net, but the rest of the services will be taxed. So now every time we go as consumers to buy anything, you will have a lot of service tax coming on the invoices that you are going to pay up for. And what this also does is that now the center and states will start fighting for the same basket, but because of this, today the way the tax happens is that there is a definite list on what center taxes and a list on what the state will tax, but for the sale of goods, only the state can levy tax. On the sale of services, only center can levy tax. Now today, a product like software, nobody knows it's a goods or service. We have been also, as a consultants who are regularly into this business of technical understanding what it is, we are still trying to figure out whether sale of software tantamounts to attracting service tax or goods. Now with negative list of services, it gives the central government a power to tax software as services, but the VAT authorities will also tax it as VAT. So because this is not introduced along with the GST and an intermediary introduction has happened, now there will be a lot of litigation that is expected to happen around where both the central and the state government will try to tax the same product or services. And apart from these 17 lists, the government has also given a big list of 34 list of services which are exempted services, like including all those basic transportation, healthcare, residential kind of purposes. So together a total of around 50 kind of different set of activities will be excluded from the service tax net, else the rest of the services will get taxed. Now, along with this negative list, a new rule has to be introduced which is called as the place of provision of services rules. What happens when GST comes is that today the states which do not have the power to tax on services will also get the power to tax services. So both the central government and the state governments will be taxing both services and goods. And when the services come into picture, the tax has to be earned by the state wherein the consumption of the services is happening. And therefore, there is a need for the place of provision rules to define where the consumption of services is happening. Goods, it's very easy to identify where the consumption is happening to whichever state you are sold in. But for a service, it becomes really difficult. For example, if I'm having a conference call, wherein to the conference call people have dialed in from 4 different states, and the service provider invoices me to the head office, we need to evaluate whether the service is consumed at the head office sitting in Maharashtra or the service is consumed across all the places that is there. A similar example is given when I consume a food on an airline when it is served on the airspace. So where is the service consumed? Is it the state in which the food got loaded into the airport, or at the landing place, or when it was in the air where I got consumed? So the place of service rules will go into in-depth defining each and every activity on where the consumption happened, and therefore to that state the revenue earning will be there. It's going to get pretty complicated. In UK they have place of service rules provision, and it's pretty complicated to define exactly in which state the services got consumed and how the revenues will be accrued. But this will be subsequently introduced along with the negative list of services very soon. There has been certain other changes that has happened. The exporting community are supposed to not to charge any taxes when they export goods out of the country. They want to incentivize the exports without the burden of the taxes. But the way the current provision is to work is the exporters have to pay the input taxes applicable on a lot of inputs that they use for the businesses, and then go and claim a refund. And this refund process runs into multiple number of years in India, and once it got introduced in 2005, even after 7 years, we're still struggling to get the refunds out to the exporters. The government this time has promised that it's going to simplify the rules of exports. So therefore, all your export are made completely tax-free and duty-free kind of stuff. Last 2 years, there have been a couple of tricky judgments which happened where even the Supreme Court, based on reading of the provision called Rule 14 in these NVAT credit rules, told that if I make a wrong book entry, I need to pay interest. So that was a very shocking kind of observations made there, even when I'm not causing any loss to the revenue, even not I'm misutilizing any of the funds. A mere wrong entry being entered into the books as a credit that I avail on the input taxes was supposed to be wrong, and I was supposed to pay interest till the time from the time I posted the entry till I reversed the entry. So now the government has brought some sense into it, and then they have said that mere book entry will not result in any interest accrual for you only if it is wrongly utilized, and that is the time when the interest would accrue. Certain changes has been introduced into point of taxation rules. Just to give you a bit of background, point of taxation rules tell you, in the case of services, what is the point at which the tax has to be levied on your services. Services being intangible, which can't be seen, felt or touched, when is it that actually rendered, and when the tax has to be paid to the authorities? Is it at the time of providing the services? Is it at the completion of service? Is it at the time that I issue invoice to the end customers? Or is it the time when I collect the payment? So there are different stages which happen in rendering of the services. The point of taxes has been defined now by the Last year they have defined it, and now they have brought certain amendments to say that at what event, at what point in time the taxes needs to be paid to the government. It is a pretty set of complex mechanism that we have defined there. For each different kind and category of services, different dates become the point of services. Now, with this budget, they have tried to give some clarifications, and they have tried to simplify the point of taxation rules. GST, again, as we spoke about, there was no date that was announced on when it would be implemented. What is only announced is that there is a block called GST Network, which will ideally work on automation of all the returns and formalities, procedures, registrations that needs to be obtained. So everything is going to go online under the GST structure. So the finance minister has announced that by August 2012, the GST network is going to start. But GST in itself may be delayed by a couple of years to be implemented. The best chance that the government has is next year, 2013, which they can implement, because 2014 is an election year and nobody would want to bring in such a major change which will have universal repercussions. So if they don't introduce it next year, again, we'll have to live with all the current indirect tax complications that we have. So this budget has been primarily the service tax bit, significant changes by way of rate increase and the negative list of services. In terms of customs and excise, there has been not much of a change except for the change in the rates that have been done. A couple of products the rate have been increased, and some of the products the rate have been decreased. Especially the gold industry is in severe heartbreak because of the various significant rates that have got increased across the spectrum. The basic rate itself, just like service tax and excise duty rates have to be aligned, the basic rate has been increased from 10 to 12%. Because of excise duty rate increase, the countervailing duty on the imports would also similarly get increased from the 10 to 12%. They have